Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me well enough. Kalimera. I was going to try out my Greek, but then I watched my colleague Will try it yesterday. It was a bit of a disaster, so I won't do that. As you know, we've had a thread and a focus from today's session around marketing and sustainability. And you'll probably also know that a lot of people feel that the consumption driven by marketing and sustainability don't sit particularly well together. So I think it would be frankly wrong of us not to address that topic in the room today. And we felt that probably the fairest way, if you like, was to try and do that through the mode of a debate, if you like. So through the power of magic, my colleagues should be able to change the lights on here somehow and give you an example. There you go. So this isn't going to be this sort of debate with two elder statesmen, or you could call them, yes, grouchy old white men. I think the last debate, actually, they had a mute button, didn't they, on this debate? It was actually horrific. But anyway, this debate is going to be more in the mode, if you like, of the School of Athens. So where free speech is encouraged, where people listen to others' opinions, but challenge them respectfully. So the debaters that we have today have been very brave to come on stage. I said to Rupen, I'd like you to argue against marketing. And he's like, excuse me, what? But they've been very brave to come in and share with us today. So what I will ask you, I know we have some journalists in the room today. Some of the opinions that are expressed today, our debaters are going to be playing a role, if you like. So please don't be quoting them as though this is the perspective of their companies as we go through. We are all grown-ups. We know that life is more nuanced and not black and white. However, they are playing a role for us today. So with that, without further ado, I'm going to invite our debaters to join me on stage. They are Rupen Desai, who's the global CMO of Dole Sunshine Company. So if you could come aboard. You can all come on together, guys. Tidy is from Procter & Gamble. Solitaire from the renowned Futura, welcome. And Jonathan, very polite audience. And Jonathan Hall from Transformation Practice at Kantar, I'm sure you all heard of. You're a very polite audience. This is lovely. It's very nice. So now, before we turn to our audience, we're going to have a little bit of fun. And you remember the Slido.com down the bottom, the GMW 2022? I'm going to ask you to pull out your devices, please, because we're going to ask you guys to basically decide on the winner. But we need a pre and we need a post, working in marketing, of course. So I'd like you to look to your devices, and there should be a very simple question on there today, which reflects the statement of the debate today, the motion, I should say. Marketing today is incompatible with a sustainable future. Do you agree or disagree with that motion? And as you cast your vote, just to explain that our Team Green over here will be the Agree team. They will be going first and have two short presentations each, followed by Team Disagree. So Tidy and Jonathan. So how many have we got? Oh, that's pretty good, isn't it? I think we can look for the results. Ooh, look at that. Ooh. So this is going to keep moving as people still vote. However, I think if we can try and remember, 53% of you disagree with the motion. So just a slight majority for our team over in that side. And we're going to come back to that poll afterwards. So I'm going to write down 53%. But yes, thank you all very much for your time and attention. And I think first up is going to be Rupen from Dole. Welcome, Rupen.
Thank you. Thank you. You can imagine when you get a call from Rob, right? And Tidy was reminding me of this last night at dinner, saying, are you seriously going to stand in front of 850 marketers and tell them that marketing is incompatible? Marketing today is incompatible with a sustainable world. Isn't that the shortest way to end your career, right? And in a way, it is right. And can we have my slides, please? This is a picture of my two girls, right? Mia is 9 years old, and May is 6. And way before I was an accidental marketer, way before my career ended today, I'm a father, okay? And as I look at each and every one of the 850 of you, I need you for the 7 minutes that I will say anything around this motion to be a father, to be a mother, to be an uncle, to be an aunt, because what I'm going to tell my daughters is that this is the world we're going to leave behind for you today. It will take us 41 more years to reach the Sustainable Development Goals, 136 more years to be gender equal. In the last few years, we added 60 million people who are hungrier than they were before. The world today, 91% of plastic does not get recycled. So we can all be in conferences and share the good intent we have, but these numbers we cannot debate. And if this is the world we are going to leave behind for my daughters and your sons and your daughters and your nephews and your niece, it would be quite arrogant for us to believe any business in the world, forget marketing, is compatible with a sustainable world. Now let's get a bit deeper into marketing. And you know, marketing, the language of marketing as we know this today, is a 20th century invention inspired by How Business Should Be by Milton Friedman, who singularly put profit at the cost of everything else at the heart of the companies we work for. And even today, I promise you, 95, 96, maybe 99% of the companies treat profit over everything else. The second big thing, and if you haven't read Edward Barney's essays, I strongly recommend that you do. Edward Barney's was the first set of writer who said, like a little pendulum, we can govern the people, we can change them, we can create desires. And the language of modern marketing, as all of us practice it today, has been predominantly shaped by Milton Friedman and Edward Barney's. And in its most simplistic, pristine form, it is this wonderful language of consumerism. So 20th century marketing gives meaning to desire, gives wants, create needs, right? That's why a fizzy drink becomes a symbol of happiness. A pair of jeans becomes a symbol of liberation. And it's almost, we're telling the world that to be happy, you must consume. To be happy, you must consume more, bigger, better, bolder, spend more money, because that's how you will be happy. Which is why, and look, I am an authority on shaving surface area, which is why, even when we can shave with 2 blades, we shave with 4, 5, 6, 7, because that's what makes me the best man I can be, right? We have marketing concepts like fast fashion. We forget the tons of waste that fast fashion causes. We have upsizing. Do we really need more fries and upsized meals? 1 camera, 2 cameras, 3 cameras, 4 cameras. We've all been guilty. And we're the privileged few, right, who can afford to debate this. We have marketing concepts like premiumization. But if you break it down, premiumization is more plastic, more paper, so we can charge the consumers more. All coming from the Milton Friedman doctrine of profit over everything else. We have marketing concepts like planned obsolescence. I mean, how many of us change our phones every few months? Because as soon as a new model is invented, the old one becomes slower. So we live in a model of business which is profit over everything else. Our entire language of marketing is consumerism through consumption, and then we use the power of the advertising dollars we have to promote this even further. We have a lot of power in this room. We're going to spend $850 billion next year, a quarter more than we did last year. But for every dollar we spend, we add, and this is UK statistics, we add 28% more to an individual carbon's footprint. So at some point, we must, as a dad, as a mother, we must realize that we are dealing in dehumanized growth. We are dealing in degenerative growth. We are dealing in growth and profit at the cost of people and planet. And we're dealing in growth that extracts every piece of juice from human beings, from the planet, but the problem is the juice that is left to extract ain't there anymore. And profit, when it comes at the cost of people and planet, leads me to conclude that marketing as it stands today is incompatible with a sustainable world. And most of you might think, oh, he's not a marketeer, which probably is true. Oh, he doesn't understand growth. And I'm saying no. Unless I stand today in front of my two daughters' eyes and saying I can be a better marketeer, I have never been a marketeer at all. It almost reminds me of, I don't know, most of you would have seen The Truman Show. And it's like marketing is existing in that Truman Show where we're all kind of patting ourselves on the back of great growth. Oh my God, you got the consumer to pay 30% more even when they didn't need to? Now let's ship the garbage away or buy a carbon footprint. But if you vote for the motion today, then we can start the journey of what marketing can be. Because we can be a genuine force for good and a genuine force for growth if we move away from linear business models to circular, regenerative business models. If we move away from profit at the cost of people and the planet to people, planet, and prosperity thriving interdependently together, never at the cost of each other. We can move from consumerism to conscious consumption and add back regenerative headprints so that when I go back to my kids, I can tell them I was a marketeer and I left a better world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello. Thank you, Rupen. Eloquent as always, and timely as well, which is fantastic.
Good,
Thank
right?
you very much.
Yeah.
So to continue on the point, agreeing with the motion that marketing today is incompatible with a sustainable future, I'll hand you over to Solitaire. Solly.
Great, thank you. And if I could have my slides, please. I've got a very little to build on what Rupen said because I also love marketing. I've been running a marketing agency for 20 years. Many of you are my clients. I'm a Cannes Lions judge. I'm an Effie judge. This is my life. But let's get fucking real. Because the world out there is quite fucked. 97 million more people entered extreme poverty, living below $1.90 per day during the pandemic. 97 million. And by the way, that was on top of the 10% of humanity who are living in extreme circumstances and don't know how to feed their children. So, what about the world that we live in? What about the environment that we live in? The sea is literally on fire. And as Rupen shared those wonderful statistics, I just have this. This is the controlling factors that control whether the planet is survivable or not, from the Stockholm Resilience Centre. This is our dashboard of whether we're going to make the future. And as you can see, the green are the parts of nature that are within a safe operating space. And more than half of the biodiversity, of the climate, of pollutants are already far beyond the safe operating space for us. I'm not talking about the tigers or the polar bears. I'm talking about you, your children, your grandchildren, and whether they are going to be able to live and breathe on this planet. And what that has led to, and this is survey data I've done myself with Ipsos Mori, 26,000 people across 20 countries last year, and we discovered that 1 in 5 young people now think it's too late to do anything about climate change. So all of our marketing, all of the solutions, all of these answers, all of these products are not convincing people that we can solve climate change. Now, those 1 in 5, those aren't the kids out there protesting on the streets because rage is still hopeful because you're so angry that people aren't doing the solutions. It means you believe the solutions. They're not the young people who come to work for me. Futerra is a sustainability marketing agency, and we get passionate young people who come to work for us who really believe they can make a difference. Those 1 in 5 young people tend to be lower income, and they tend to have less access to education, and they are a silent generation that we are losing to ennui and to a lack of hope about the future. Because as marketers, they don't believe us when we tell them that we've got the solutions. And what this leads to is you have to agree with the proposition, because no industry anywhere is yet sustainable on a world that is about to bust its 1.5 degrees of global warming. By the way, just so you understand, 1.5 degrees of global warming means that we lose most of our seasides around the world. We lose parts of Bangladesh. We lose a huge proportion of parts of the world where human beings can live at 1.5 degrees of climate change. And that's what we've agreed globally is the best case scenario. So how can any industry, any person, any organization claim to be sustainable in that scenario? And as Rupen said, our industry particularly is adding 28% to the annual carbon footprint of every single person in the UK. So today, let's just suck it up. We are part of the problem, but we must become solutionists. So how do we become solutionists? What would make me vote yes? What would make me vote with these guys? What would make me vote no, I don't agree? It would be if we followed this. This is a very beautiful report. This is the IPCC Working Group 3 AR6 that came out this Monday, a couple of days ago. It is the to-do list of the planet. This is the third report from the IPCC after 6 years of working on it. IPCC 1 is how did we fuck it? So it's basically, what's all the carbon, where does it all come to? IPCC 2 is how fucked is it? So actually, how bad has it gone? By the way, I'm just sharing this with you. This is my tweet. It totally trended on Twitter. It's got like 20,000 likes, so I can share it with you. And this IPCC 3 report that came out on Monday is how to unfuck it. How do we unfuck the planet? And by the way, I did this with Comic Sans. Do not blame my design studio. I did this morning. My creative director's going to have a heart attack. And in that report, it sets out the to-do list for every single one of you who works in marketing because of this quote. This is a direct quote from the Summary for Policymakers. Every single government in the world has agreed this science, very fraught, including the governments of Russia and Ukraine, who are both on the call to agree this report because it's so important. And the only words in that sentence you actually have to understand is behavior change can reduce global GHG emissions by at least 5% rapidly. You can reduce global greenhouse gas emissions by 5% rapidly. How do you do it? This is all the science that's in the report. But if you're not that used to parsing deep science reports, I've simplified it for you. Eat more plants, waste less food, buy less crap. That, by the way, is a shift in demand towards sustainable consumption, such as intensive use of longer-lived repairable products. Love Zoom, so basically fly less. Walk, cycle, insulate homes. The scientists have analysed everything that we could do, everything which consumers could do that would genuinely contribute to holding us to that 1.5, and these are the top parts of this. These are the top things which we could do. And our businesses, as marketers, our job is to produce the products and the services and the creative communications to get people to do them. And if you are not doing that full time, if you are not only working on that, then you're part of the problem. Because that's the only brief that there is on the planet now. We're at 1.5, we've got a ticking clock, climate change is here, it is present, it is already killing people, and we have got to use all of our innovation, our creativity. I've very responded to what John Hegarty said about truth and creativity. We have to use our truth and creativity at scale to answer that. And if we're not doing that every day with everything we do, then we're not compatible with a sustainable future. So vote agree, because we must be solutionists, and we are not yet. Thank you very much, and sorry for saying fuck.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you. That's perfect. I've worked for the WFA for a number of years. I can safely say there was more fucks in that presentation than any other presentation. But
well, I really give a fuck. I really give a fuck.
Thank you very much. If you haven't seen Solly's TED Talks, highly recommended. But now I'd like to hand the floor to Jonathan for the team Disagree.
Great. So, thanks, Rob, and thanks to Rupert and Solitaire for that characterization of marketing. And what Taddy and I are going to talk about over the next 15 minutes is how that's a characterization of marketing in the past. Because actually the pioneers in the marketing world are already starting to address some of the issues, the critical issues that the guys have just identified, and some of you in the room are already working on this. So we have no argument with the fact that people within society, there's a global Kantar data to demonstrate that 79% of the people hold businesses and to some extent government responsible for the deep societal and environmental challenges that we face. And so when brands start to be active with regard to sustainable issues, they're met with skepticism. 63% of people here in the world cynical about brands' motivations with regard to social environmental issues. It's not just people as consumers and citizens. It's governments, it's the financial community, NGOs, and it's journalists. So the Financial Times here 2 years ago launched what it called its new agenda, calling for a reset of capitalism, presumably marketing as part of that, and actually moving away from the Friedman doctrine to a multi-stakeholder model that's all about profit with purpose. So all stakeholders calling for change. And of course, it's not a surprise, is it? Because this is what business and marketing used to be. Thanks to the WFA archive here. Apologies to Chase and Sanborn Kenwood Appliances. Not exactly striking a blow here for gender equality, is it? What's it say? The chef does everything but cook. That's what wives are for, apparently. We know that people want change. Over half globally paying attention to social and environmental issues and investing time and money in companies perceived to do the right thing. But, and this is a big but, people don't see themselves as being responsible for clearing up the mess. So who is going to lead the transformation? Well, the UN says that it's up to the private sector. They play a critical role in achieving that just transition to a sustainable economy. And businesses agree. So this is the annual survey from Accenture and the United Nations Global Compact. Virtually all CEOs say that sustainability is critical to their businesses. Why? The special envoy to the UN, Mark Carney, saying that basically if businesses don't step up and embrace sustainable issues, they will cease to exist. We will cease to exist. Now, Solitaire talked about how amplification means that marketing has been on the wrong side of history so far. We've been amplifying the negative impact of products and services upon society and the environment. But we all know in this room that amplification cuts both ways. Marketing has the singular power and the skills to effect the change that's required. Look at what Nigel Topping, who is the UK high-level climate champion for COP26 last year, says. Marketing has incredible power in creating tangible and exciting visions of ourselves and our future, and in explaining the benefits of this critical transition to a zero-carbon world. CMOs should quickly become the new climate activists and lead the way in the race to zero. This isn't a marketeer speaking. So, guess what? It's already happening. Connie played a video of Dove earlier on, which we all recognize now as a champion of female empowerment. But it wasn't always like that. It's evolved over time. It had a product and functional focus first. It then moved on to be an identity brand with emotional benefits. Now, for the past 20 years, it's been about female empowerment. And that's because the role of marketing is to imagine and activate new realities. So John was talking about that this morning. If marketing didn't move in line with cultural and societal norms, brands would become irrelevant and CMOs would become redundant. Now, from the report that Rupert and Solitaire have been talking about, so the Purpose Disruptors report, focusing our attention on advertised emissions as well as advertising emissions, we have really important new approaches and new metrics to pursue. But we can be more ambitious than this. We need to be in the light of the IPCC report published this week. But we also need to be, because we're in the midst of a generational pivot. We've only seen 2 of these in the last 120 years. The first of them was after the Second World War, when we saw the boomer generation driving a shift from institutionalism to individualism. Now, Gen Z is driving a shift from individualism to a greater sense of community. This is the biggest cohort we have ever seen. They will control the marketplace, and they will reward the brands and marketeers who respond to these mindsets and values. And what's the biggest challenge that they're facing, that we're facing? It's closing the value action gap, the gap between people's stated values and beliefs and their actions and behaviors. The United Nations says it's the holy grail that will make sustainable consumption a reality. Consumers want it. They're asking for brands to help. We know from behavioral science what those blocks are. It's about convenience and knowledge. It's the relationship between price and perceived quality. It's individual responsibility and accountability, availability of goods, and the personal impact that people feel they can have. And as marketeers, we have the tools to unblock these barriers. And guess what? Brands are already doing it. Always has been attacking social and environmental issues since the 80s. Colgate has revamped its entire oral care portfolio through product innovation and acquisition. As well as the Sustainable Living Plan, Unilever has launched standalone brands like Beauty, Love and Planet. Adidas has developed a groundbreaking partnership with Parley, reusing ocean plastic to create desirable performance running shoes. And this goes beyond the Western world. Baidu developing an app in partnership with the United Nations Development Programme to tackle e-waste. The P&G brand SK2 creating a film around what's so-called leftover women in Chinese society, so older unmarried women. Got 30 million views on Weibo. And of course, going to India, Godrej is one of 12 Indian companies quoted on the Dow Sustainability Index. Amul continues to fulfill its purpose of providing milk to every single household in India, regardless of background. So, far from being incompatible with a sustainable future, far from putting aside the sorts of issues that the guys have highlighted, the marketing profession has the singular power and skills to be able to address the future that we all want to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Very nice. And now welcome our friend Tidy from Procter & Gamble to continue the case.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jonathan, for making the point that it is already happening today. For me, it is really, really very obvious. For generations, and you've made some good examples already, we've made the work that we do together have made the difference. The Like a Girl campaign is not just something that happened. We have changed the meaning of the word like a girl. It used to have a negative connotation, and it used to be only 19% of the people perceived this to be something positive. Now it's 76%. This is what marketers do. We've done the same thing with other campaigns like Ariel Share the Load that has portrayed the household chores to be shared equally among partners. We have also made some efforts, and we actually, this is new news, are partnering with WFA to make our advertising accessible for people with hearing and viewing disabilities. What you saw today, from MasterCard, already 10% of the ads are being accessible, or the audio described for people with viewing disabilities. So this is difference we're making in the society. Beyond equality and inclusion, marketing can and is the driver to a more sustainable future. We must turn sustainability from a must-do to an irresistible choice, and we're already doing that. In P&G, we started an effort a decade ago. We've made significant progress in our supply chain and our operations, and we have also committed, as many of the companies here with us in Greece have committed to deliver net zero greenhouse emissions by 2040. So that is great, and that's a very good point for each one of us to take care of our own environmental impact. However, as you heard from Stefan this morning, when you do the LCA analysis, you find that a lot of the impact that we generate is through the usage of the product, consumer usage. Energy and water are used, and waste is generated when consumers use our products. And consumers, they don't want to compromise. They want the best products, but actually they really are not sure what to do to help the environment. So this becomes our job, talking about habit change. So let's talk about a very simple task, which is laundry. Something that everybody of us is doing every day. Did you know that up to 60% of the washing machine's energy consumption comes from heating the water? Okay, this is what creates carbon emissions. And did you know that in Europe, the majority of people wash with warm water? So we designed a formulation on Ariel, which has significant impact in the market, that is actually able to deliver great performance, great value for consumers at low temperature. And that was not enough just doing the product. We had to tell people. So we designed a campaign called Every Degree Makes a Difference. Let me share it with you.
When you've got a seriously dirty load, do you dare to wash colder? With new Ariel pods, you'll be amazed at what you can get out on lower temperatures. Pod colder on greasy stains. Pod colder on tough stains. Pod colder for a hygienic clean. Ariel pods are designed to work on cold, saving you up to 60% energy. If we all wash colder in Europe, we could save as much CO2 as taking up to 2 million cars off the road. Ariel pods. Pod colder, pod clean. Always close with a click-clack and keep away from children.
This is already making an inroad on how people do their laundry in Europe, and actually also in the US. We actually also made a partnership with National Geographic, and we called consumers to make a pledge to wash with cold water. So that's about laundry. There's another example, which is dishwashing, doing the dishes. I bet many of you do the pre-rinsing, before you put it into the dishwasher. I fight about this with my husband all the time. Actually, Cascade developed a formula that is so powerful that really lifts and destroys the enzymes of the stuck food in the dishes, and you actually don't need to pre-rinse. And through this investigation, we found out that actually sometimes it's even better to do a dishwasher load than to wash it by hand. Let me share with you what we did.
We do it every night.
Every night.
Every single night. Run your dishwasher every night and save water, and try Fairy Platinum Plus. Did you know that a dishwasher uses on average 12 litres of water per cycle, which a running tap does in just 2 minutes? That means using your dishwasher could save water, even when not completely full. So why not do it? Run your dishwasher every night with Fairy Platinum Plus, the surprising way you could save water. Fairy Platinum Plus, best on test by Which.
So if every household in the US did it every night, we could save 25 billion of water, without any problem. So what if we could innovate to create a breakthrough product that has zero carbon footprint? This is what our little brand, EC30, is still early days, but it's really an exciting journey to make sure that we deliver breakthrough in cleaning, and at the same time reduce energy, water, plastic and emissions. When you use this product that is absolutely revolutionary, you basically do not need water for the formulation to make it there, so to make it come to life. So it actually removes 80% of the weight, 70% of the space, and 75% of the emissions. This is the kind of work that we can do. Now, we've talked about the work that we have to do in order to use our craft, to deliver the habit change that we need. This is also good for business. It's good for brands are good for good and good for growth. Absolutely. If we were to deliver all the SDG objectives, we would impact the economy with $12 trillion, making the society fairer and more sustainable. So, last but not least, sustainability is not a marketing strategy. Actually, sustainability is a business strategy. But we have a very strong role to play to bring it to life. Why? Because it is our job to bring the voice of consumers and to impact the company's strategy. We actually also have a very important role to nudge behavior and to influence what consumers do with our products. And last, because our responsibility actually goes beyond a campaign or a communication. We actually have responsibility for product, for distribution, for pricing, for setting the strategy and setting the financials. So we have tremendous power, and we're already making an impact today. So I'm sorry to say, my friends on the right, but it's not true. Marketing today is already compatible with a sustainable future. We can definitely do more, but it's already making its impact. vote for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tidy. I can now win the pre-rinse argument with my wife as well. I have scientific proof. So, no, thank you very much. Really excellent presentations. Now, we're going to have a debate, as we said, and we've had the arguments for and against. Now, I must remind everyone that the motion today is that marketing today is incompatible with a sustainable future. Now, I put it to Team Agree. All these lovely people in the audience here knew full well what was on the agenda. It was all around marketing sustainability. And look, fantastic, they turned up in droves. These are people that came into marketing to create things. That doesn't feel completely incompatible with a sustainable future for me.
I think the key point is marketing could be, if these wonderful examples we just heard were actually standard practice. But I don't think any of these wonderful committed individuals in this room who want to make a difference would argue that those examples are any more than 25% of what they do. Maybe if you work in one of the big brands, 100% committed to us, perhaps 50% of what you do. And then there's this long tail of what you do that is not compatible with. And in fact, I was very pleased Jonathan used one of my stats from Futera, that 88% of consumers want brands to help them live a sustainable future. But you forget the second point of that survey, which is over 40, the majority of the survey respondents said that brands are not helping them live a sustainable future. So they want you to, but right now, your consumers agree with us.
Can I add to that, Rob?
Yeah, please add to it, Rupert.
Yeah,
Go for it.
sorry, first of all, thank you. So if having heard all four presentations, there is a bit of, yes, it is wrong, but it can be for the future. I don't think we're dramatically saying different things. And within each one of us as a marketer, there is an optimistic streak where we would want to sit on the side of right. And my urge is, as the planet was burning, doing a few campaigns and showing them as we're already there today would be the biggest disadvantage 850 of us would do to our future generation. So yes, there are a few fine sparks. Yes, there is a bit of optimism. Yes, we believe we want to be on the side of good. But we must put our hand to our heart and ask ourselves the question of marketing today. Because if we have the answers, good. My kids have a great future. See you, everybody. But they don't. And we can't be guilty of being optimistic backslapping when the world was burning. So as you vote of that, put your hand to our heart, not as a marketeer. Of course, I want to be on the side of good as well. But if to create good, it needs to start with, we need to change the way we think about marketing today. Not optimistically, realistically. That is my urge.
So if I, thank you. So these beautiful case studies that we've been hearing about, an exception rather than the rule, are we simply greenwashing a whole industry? Is that what's happening here?
I can talk for our personal experience. No, they are not exceptional. We have actually moved to a place where sustainability is not an afterthought, and it's not something that you do at the end and you say, oh, by the way, what claim can we make? But we actually start thinking sustainability from the beginning, from the moment that we start thinking a product, from the moment that we start thinking what are we going to tell consumers, from the moment that we start planning the financials, not only for the short term, but also for the longer term, because this is expensive, okay? And so this is something that we need to pay the bill, and we need to make choices on what else will go, but this is something that is already being planned into the way that we go to market, into the way that we think our products, so it's really not an exception.
Yeah, sorry to undermine your science solitaire, but it wasn't actually Futera data, it was Kantar data. But just beyond petty things. I think the important thing, I think, for us...
I'll tweet it.
The important thing for us is, we would accept that, of course, marketing isn't perfect. We're not saying that marketing is perfect. There are lots of examples where marketing isn't doing the right thing. But the point is that everybody accepts the United Nations has publicly articulated the fact that one of the key needs in order to make the just transition to a sustainable economy is communications and marketing skills. The marketing function, people in this room uniquely have that ability to help that transition. So all of those awful images that Solitaire was showing before, actually it's us here in this room, marketing today, marketers today, who are actually 100% compatible with driving that sustainable future. So that's the important thing to hold on to here. Ruben?
No, I mean, look, everybody here knows that I'm eventually going to go home to my daughters. So there are 850 parents who are going to work with me and determine whether by actually voting for the incompatibility, we are able to write a new language. I mean, Raja was talking about the new language of marketing. We heard different versions from a creative point of view. Sir John was talking about it. And from a sustainable point of view, if we have to write a new language, it begins with accepting that today, majority of what we do as an industry, not my company, your company, we're all good people, right? But there is a big, bad world out there. And if we have to write the new language, it begins with accepting that the current language, to quote Solitaire, is pretty fucked up.
I just wanted to add to that around the fact that we have this massive potential. That's what the IPCC report that came out this week told us. We've got a massive potential. But the United Nations under Antonio Guterres also said that we absolutely are not doing it, that our net zero is not yet anywhere. The commitments, the action we're taking as businesses are not yet anywhere near in line with the 1.5. So not only do consumers not think that we are helping them to live a sustainable lifestyle, the UN has also made it extremely clear that what we are doing and what we have even committed to is not in line. So I'm afraid it's simply wishful thinking to think that marketing is currently fit for the future. It also, that way of thinking, stops us from grabbing the opportunity of what we could do. Because actually, every single one of you has the potential to be a solutionist, to take that mantle on, and to be part of the answer that we're going to so quickly need to get that 5% saving. And if you think what you're doing is enough right now, if there's a sort of pat on the back or laziness or confidence that what we're doing is in line right now, it will stop us from having that energy, that passion, that courage to do what's actually needed. So I think kind of to make a solution, you first got to admit that maybe you're part of the problem. And that only by admitting that can you then take on what I think is the destined role for our industry, which is to be the solutionists. But we are definitely not that today.
If I may, I think that it is important that we frame the discussion to the phrase that we're trying to debate. Right. Nobody's saying that we're done, that we don't have any more work to do. Nobody's saying that marketers cannot make a difference. I think the phrase is marketing is not compatible with a sustainable future. Marketing today is not compatible with a sustainable future. Marketing today is compatible with a sustainable future. We've shown you quite a few examples that it is compatible and that we can make a difference, and we are making a difference already today. We still have a lot of work to do, but it is compatible already today, and that's what we're voting here.
So to build on that, Tidy, we hear a lot of great case studies, and when we work around the Planet Pledge, we talk about behavior change, and a lot of it, and this may be to you, Jonathan, as well, it almost feels like incremental change. And we've heard about the urgency that from the IPCC report and elsewhere. Are we just shifting the deck chairs a little bit as the Titanic goes down? You know, is that enough? Is that really, are we really compatible right now?
So I sort of feel that the guys are arguing for our case here, because I think, you know, what I'm hearing is, yes, we need to do massive things. Yes, of course, emissions need to peak by 2025. Nobody's arguing with that. The point here is that marketing has the skills to affect the change that's required. And Tidy has been sharing some of the examples of where that's the case. I think We all recognize, the IPCC report recognizes that we need fundamental systemic change at the economic system level. But those small changes that you're talking about, Rob, are the things which move us there, also identified in the IPCC report as being the steps to greater macro change. We heard a lot yesterday talking about micro changes being the steps on the journey to fundamental change. And there's been a lot spoken in the marketing fraternity over the last couple of years. Micro changes lead to macro change, because if not, the behavioral science tells us we won't get there. Just by putting up scary pictures is not going to make the change that we need.
Yeah, so you have to start somewhere, and the argument is that we've started. Understood. Now, before I go to the next question, I'd encourage you all, please, and if we can see the questions on the return screen here at the back of house, please feel free to put your questions forward to our panelists. But I just want to turn to Solly and Rupen again. You talked, Solly, I think, about extreme poverty, SDG 8. And we work with Deloitte around value of advertising, and talks a lot about 6 million jobs that are created for €1 of advertising spend generates €7. That feels kind of compatible with trying to tackle extreme poverty, right? Decent work and economic growth.
I'm not entirely sure whether most of those jobs in advertising are going to people who live on less than $1.9 a day. So whilst we might be an industry that does have a lot of employment for a lot of very well-educated people, we're probably, as an industry of marketers, not a significant part of alleviating poverty in the way that agriculture, changing agriculture might be, etc. So I think that when we look across the SDGs, of course, we look at poverty, when we look at food, we also know that across all of the SDGs, we're currently on track to not meet any of them by 2030. So again, when the IPCC is telling us that emissions continue to rise, driven primarily by consumption around the world, when the SDGs, not one of them, are on track to be met by 2030, for me, that's the biggest marketing opportunity for a generation. And the examples, whilst I love them, whilst Futera, we do many of them. We work with P&G, we work with Danone, we work with all of you. They are still not enough to get us where we needed to be. And I would agree with the other side if all of those were 100,000 times larger and more consistent across the entire world. If it wasn't just the same brands who come onto these stages again and again and again, giving the examples. I love you, Unilever. You are amazing, but you are literally at every single sustainability conference. If actually this was consistently across business. And I think we have these wonderful examples from a few amazing companies doing great work, but it is absolutely not consistent across the marketing industry at whole, especially across the whole world.
And Rupen made an outstanding effort to be here from Singapore. I'm not saying Singapore is necessarily representative of the rest of Asia, but perspectives there. Surely economic growth, all boats rise, right?
So there is the business reality where we have linked ourselves to a very linear model of calculating prosperity, right? GDP is linked to it, companies link profit to it. I'm sure most of our KPIs are broadly just linked to EBIT, net income, and then we come into these conferences and show these examples because we are well-intentioned. But unless we are able to write language of people, planet, prosperity, unless we are able to measure, saying what does that pod that you just showed, what is the impact on plastic? How many people at the lower end of the funnel were able to access it? Did it improve the prosperity of the people in India who wash their clothes by hand? Because those are the ones suffering. The economic crisis is created by 20% of the rich and experienced by 80% of the poor. So when we talk in random numbers, unless we're able to take it down to measuring it to the unequals, it's almost being in an echo chamber where the privileged are talking to the privileged about how the underprivileged are being served by the privileged. And I think we should have the humility. And just one last point, and I'll shut up. Yeah. as a business, we must have the humility to say, whilst we don't have all the answers today, we will find them. But we cannot pretend we already know them and we're already compatible, because that could be the worst thing we do for our future generations.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruben.
Also, can I say,
I'd just like to ask a
questions.
question from the
That's so
floor.
good.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
Anna's.
I think perhaps to team disagree. So the question is, how can we invest billions? And we've heard from the metaverse from David and Raja earlier today. How can we be investing billions in that area very soon, whilst we haven't fixed issues around poverty, climate, inclusion in the real world?
Great question.
If an industry like that is so fixed on that as a focus, when all the problems we're facing, it doesn't sound very compatible.
I think it's it's a good point. It's a threat. I liked what Connie said this morning, which is before we go there, before it becomes completely wild and we have many of the problems they're already facing today, we need, as an industry, to make sure that we preempt that we prevent that when we go there, this is something that is helping, the world, the equality, as opposed to going against it. We also saw very good examples earlier today on how brands are doing good using the metaverse, how the brand purpose is coming to life in the metaverse. So there's also some compatibility, and going back to the term compatibility, not are we there yet, are we done, but is it compatible? Can these two things coexist? There are ways to make it happen.
Yeah, so I'm a bit confused by that as well, and I share the sentiment, because I think even if you look at this from a commercial perspective, there is huge opportunity in sustainability. The World Business Council for Sustainable Development has identified $12 trillion of opportunity each year in sustainable issues. So this is a massive opportunity for organizations, and I think clearly, the metaverse is as well. But when we look at sustainability, this is a huge opportunity. And when we speak to our investment banking partners, rating agencies, they say, yeah, of course, we think about risk, but we also think about opportunity. And your ability to access capital is going to be dependent upon you having strategies to crack sustainability problems. So I think, there is huge opportunity in sustainability.
There's a lot of huge question marks around the carbon footprint of the metaverse as well. But any points from
Look, the
team?
inventor of the Ethereum has become very vocal against the hijack by the apes. You've seen the apes and the rating they got, and David shared some of the numbers of the value those NFTs have been. Because Web 3.0 has huge potential for the bottom 80% of the world we live in. The transparency, the decentralization, the non-collective ownership by a few, usually white Western worlds, is the genuine potential of Web 3.0, the metaverse, the NFTs. Currently, we may celebrate the Gucci handbag, and that's what the inventor of Ethereum was lamenting, saying before this gets hijacked by the same people that we are trying to unhijack the potential form, we need to move to NFTs for good. We need to move to 17 NFTs that generate the $1 trillion, that solve that drinking water problem and this sanitation water. We don't have to wait 136 years, Anna, for gender equality to be sold. I want my girls not to wait 136 years. So Web 3.0 has amazing potential. The apes might hijack it, but it is up to us to make sure we use it for the genuine good that it can do for us.
So we need 100 billion invested into climate solutions by 2021. That was last year. And we're nowhere near it, according to UN. So yeah, I am worried about where the capital flows will come through. But I'm also excited. I'm always excited by new technology. As John Hegarty said, technology can be exciting in and of its own, but it ain't what it is, it's what you do with it. And I am very excited about how the experience economy, which might be what we start getting on things like the metaverse, can dematerialize stuff. So actually, you might find it's harder to sell stuff in the metaverse because actually people are seeking experiences, and experiences tend to be lower carbon footprint than actually just buying more crap. So I do think that there is some really interesting things that could happen with metaverse. One of my biggest clients is Google. And Google is beginning, 1 billion people use 9 of their products. 1 billion people each product. And they're beginning to use their ability to influence to change those behaviors. So if you search for a route, if you're American, if you search for a route on Google Maps, Google is now tweaking that to actually take you by a more eco-friendly route. Small, tiny changes, but changes that can generate quite significant changes. So, one, I'm sorry, I'm going to swear again, fuck loads more money needs to go into climate solutions. This is where your R&D should be looking at. This is where your innovation should be. This is where your creativity should be pointed. And this is where the investment needs to go. Not least because otherwise you're going to end up with what's called stranded assets of investments in other things, in other sectors that begin to die off. But secondly, let's get in there to the metaverse and go, right, it's a tool like any other. What are we going to do with it?
Thank you. So we've heard from a few of our debaters today that consumers want change, but the question that's been put from the audience is, do your shareholders want change? Do they believe in the urgency for change that we need to address? And hopefully put that to both of you.
I can start. I already mentioned, for us, absolutely yes, they believe. We have invested many millions in order to anticipate this and to go in the direction that we have already committed publicly. Beyond Procter, I want to mention the fact that I learned yesterday that there's, I think it was Diageo that mentioned 30% of their bonus is contingent on delivering the ESG goals of the management's bonus. So that is also a very good concrete action that shows that companies are starting to move to a place where this is really not something, the cherry on the cake, but it's something that is embedded into how they operate.
Yeah, and I would broaden it to stakeholders generally. I think there is no stakeholder audience now that isn't absolutely focused on this and sees it as being business critical. I think when we look at our employees, and particularly obviously younger employees, but not just, they want to work for organizations who align with their values. If we're looking at our clients, we're getting on an almost daily basis now procurement functions demanding to know what our social environmental policies are. Our primary shareholders and our bondholders doing exactly the same thing, also making it very clear about their ESG expectations. I mentioned the conversations that I've been having with our investment banking partners, our legal partners, our accounting partners. If anybody is in this room is under the illusion that this is going away, then you'd better wake up.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question of Tide?
Well, we've actually only got 2 minutes left, so I didn't want to go too far down the ESG route, but I was going to ask one, bring it back to marketing a little bit more, if you don't mind. So one of our members, Ørsted, a lot of you might have heard of them before, energy company shifted from fossil fuels to renewables. The interesting thing that came through that was that they were basically saying that marketing, and their advertising specifically, was the North Star that really helped communicate not only externally what their ambitions were, but internally. So even before they'd managed to achieve the goals. And that's something from 5 years ago. So I think there's more examples than perhaps we think. But any thoughts in relation, sir?
And there are companies leading the way, right? There are companies leading the way. She spoke about Unilever, and a lot of the Unilever world, when Paul Polman first wrote the Unilever Living Sustainable Plan, internally within Unilever, didn't believe in it. That was 12, 13 years ago, right? There are the Swedish company you talk about, where we were discussing that yesterday. The company I work for is one of them where we think of results in people, planet, prosperity, not just EBIT. I mean, MasterCard, the change that MasterCard is bringing. But when you add that up across the numbers, across the thing, yes, these North Stars can be inspirational ray of hope, but as a collective, we can't just pat ourselves for those 2, 3, 4% of companies, while the 96% of them, or whatever the math is, actually aren't there yet. So there are these examples, but I'd be very reticent to saying, voila, let's congratulate ourselves, go home, job done. Everything's compatible.
Understood. Understood. So in interest of time, final word perhaps from Solly?
Final word, I 100% agree. I spent 20 years making those very examples that you quote. My whole job is working with the leading businesses to help them market much more compelling their sustainability. I'm immensely proud of the work that I've done, and I do not for 1 second believe that it is enough and that we're done. And I do not for 1 second believe that even what I'm doing, I wouldn't vote disagree for Futera, even though this is what we do. Because the potential is there. It is huge. You are going to save the world, but you're not doing so today.
Lovely intonation. Perhaps final word from Jonathan?
Yeah, I think probably it's all been said, but I think the guys have painted a picture of a world that we would agree with, that is burning. We all need to do something about it. I think everybody recognizes the case histories that we've shared. I think, and we would all just urge everyone to use the skills at all of our disposal to effect the change that the world needs.
Yes, and if I can just add, just to remind you, they're talking about your work, the work that you've done. We've done things, amazing things over the years. There's even a question there. Years ago, no one would believe that marketing could have the impact of today on women's rights and equality, yet we have. We've made some progress. So it's talking about, can we do this today? Is it compatible with our work today? Do you guys disagree? If the answer is no, then vote for us.
Nice one.
So with that final point, if you don't mind, Rupen, I think we've going to then put it back to the audience to see their views. So hopefully this slide will work. Now, if you remember to underline, marketing today is incompatible with a sustainable future. And memory serves, last time it was 53% disagreed with this motion. So
it's all changing.
If you could, hopefully that poll should be coming up on your app or on the Slido.com
So we are disagree,
platform.
Just for
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah, we're agreeing.
Red disagree. Okay, we're up to 208. So hopefully these numbers won't change too much. Intake of breath. Ooh, look at that.
Whoa!
Well done. Bravi, you guys were so good. You're a master.
And this will be my last presentation at WFA because I'll be fired after this debate. So, so congratulations to Team Green. So I'd just like you all to give them once more. They've been very brave. It's a tough topic. A round of applause.
Thank you.